Rawteur. An article by Variety suggests that at least one production studio is now using focus groups to combat the backlash of toxic fandom in sci-fi and fantasy franchises. Now, if there are physical threats, that's one thing, but mostly it's just anonymous people being mean on the internet. And there are tools to deal with that. If the show is good, it doesn't matter how loud the dissatisfaction is. The new Alien Earth series that's coming out next year has been widely discussed online that it will not stick to the original film's canon. They're trying something new. So, yes, many fans of the Alien franchise may be disappointed and will take their frustrations online. Because with this new origin story, if you will, many fan theories that fans have been discussing and devoted entire communities to will practically be destroyed. However, if the show is good, none of that will matter. No amount of online hate or review bombing has ever or will ever be the cause of a good series being canceled. Furthermore, if a studio is making a new show that doesn't cater to the fans of the original, then why use the IP in the first place? Why not create something original instead of leeching onto the IP's cachet? You'll practically be starting from square one anyway if you're not catering to the fans of the original, right? The article also points to a YouTube ecosystem of toxic fandoms with channels devoted to declaring certain projects woke garbage. It mentioned two scenes that were review bombed: the kissing scene between Rhaenyra and Mysaria in House of the Dragon, and the Last of Us episode featuring Bill and Frank. Throughout my YouTube journey, I've had numerous commenters use the term woke disparagingly when discussing sci-fi projects. I actually engage with these people, and from what I can gather is that most are just kids repeating a popular phrase. It's become a troll term at this point. The other group is adults with the mental capacity of a child. And a very small minority truly understand what they mean when they say something is woke or woke garbage. And typically, they use it as a synonym for pandering. Firstly, let's get one thing clear. I don't like filler episodes, as do most people. It doesn't matter what the story or content is. So while I admit the Bill and Frank episode was touching and helped develop the characters, I was disappointed that we spent so much time in the past so soon in the season. Removing the episode's subject matter, I think it's fair for me or anyone to feel that way. Secondly, there were 2 filler episodes in this 9-episode season, both touching on LGBTQ plus issues. Episode 3 with Bill and Frank, and episode 7 with Ellie and Riley in the mall. I remember being annoyed that it was another filler. I thought, so we're only gonna get a 7-episode season. However, once I zoomed out, I realized I couldn't recall seeing any same-sex couples or anyone that I could identify as outwardly identifying as part of the LGBTQ community outside of those 2 episodes. It felt like the show was using the LGBTQ plus community as a shield from criticism for having not 1, but 2 filler episodes. Now, again, no one likes filler episodes, and if you were to complain about those specific episodes, people could shift the conversation and say, your real issue is the content, which automatically paints you as toxic. Now, while that may be true for a vocal minority, a lot of people don't like fillers. Think of it like this: if there were no black characters in the show, except for the 2 flashback episodes, black fans would almost feel compelled to defend the show against anyone who didn't like either episode. And if you were to swap in any marginalized group, the point would remain the same. Essentially, shielding the show from criticism is what the LGBTQ community might have felt they needed to do for episodes 3 and 7 of The Last of Us, which is just manipulation. I want to be clear. I don't condone anyone being obnoxious, mean, or outright racist or bigoted for any reason. However, this is America, and people have the right to be racist, bigoted pieces of if they want to be. When issues similar to that of toxic fandoms comes up, I see calls for systemic or platform-wide censorship, but censorship rules or laws are not the answer, because those same edicts will eventually be used to censor you when you're on the unpopular side of an argument, regardless of the language you use to make your point. So while toxicity does exist, it's not the majority of fandom. Attempting to censor it will only lead to bigger problems. The Variety article argues that toxic fandoms have a real impact on franchises, so much so that studios are seeking marketing advice from the same superfans the article spends the entire time referring to as toxic. Negative review bombing, targeted harassment, and hate speech are all online activities cited as problems. Yes, there were threats, but people make threats all the time. When I worked in casting, I got threatened many times. What you have to understand is when we're in these positions, we interact with hundreds of people on a daily basis, different people on a daily basis, or random people we don't know, right? We're calling and interacting, sometimes face to face, whether you're doing street casting, depending on the show, or you're making cold calls. Eventually, you are bound to come across the sociopaths within our society. There was even a guy who would call the office from a payphone and rant about numbers like Jim Carrey did in the number 23, essentially threatening to harm people in the office. I mean, it happens, whether it's fan disagreements over canon or some other idiotic reason. I'm not justifying these actions or making excuses. In the world we live in today, people will make threats for any reason. Case in point, in 1973, Stanley Kubrick pulled A Clockwork Orange from theaters because the media tried to blame his film for violent acts in the UK. As Kubrick told the New York Times, the age of the violent, mindless hooligan has arrived, and it is not a product of A Clockwork Orange. It is the product of a society that prefers to believe it has no sociopaths. End quote. These focus groups will do nothing to stop that. The real question is, how much is Sweet Baby Inc. charging for the focus groups? I'm just kidding, but I mean, someone's hands gotta be in the cookie jar, right?